So being a person who's always into electronics and computers, you might guess I'm almost hyper logical. Like I focus everything on logic and reason and always think in those terms, which often has led me in life to having a hard time with communicating with people. And a lot of scientists and other people in that field of study also have this problem. And it takes a really smart person to bridge that gap. And I've studied a lot of language and I've been trying to become a better communicator because that's actually one of the keys to my business and success. Comes so much more from my communication with people and less about my technical acumen. There's plenty of people with technical acumen, but you need to be able to communicate with people, to connect with people, to have them fix your computers. So that's kind of how this relates a little bit, and it's why I study things like this. So the narrative index. Now this is Randy Olson, super smart guy, wrote a book called Houston, We Have a Story. Now this is off of his blog post, the scienceandstory.com, and it's his formula for the narrative index, and it really fascinates me because it's applying mathematics to language. Now there's been a lot of times this has been done in the past, different ways to summarize articles and things like that, but this is really cool. This is from the New Yorker, and he is specifically, because it's so relevant and topical, wanted to apply narrative index to the speeches written by so many presidents, and of course our new president-elect Trump, who this was all done before the election, and his narrative index of Trump has a 28. Now he actually consulted with the Clinton team and spoke to them about this, and he understands that during the election he was not as well received because there was competing theories, and of course no theory is really true to prove it, so they didn't necessarily take his advice, but not by any really fault. They were testing different theories. Now the here nor there, this isn't really about the politics, it's about the ABT theory and how he calculates the narrative index, and that's entirely in here. It's really, really simple, and it also is fascinating. He did an entire talk about how the creators of South Park, which, whether you like the show or not, they've been running for 20 years, and they've been telling story and are very popular, and they use this trick as well. So they take and create a narrative index by dividing buts and ands and multiplying times 100. So if we have 10 buts, 27 ands, and that gives us a narrative index of 37. So this is just interesting. And the reason why is because they start going historically backwards and looking at, for example, Lincoln versus Douglas and where they landed on the debates. And Lincoln, with his much higher narrative index, did very well. And it's really, he gets a lot deeper as you read the whole article. I'm not going to read it all for you. If you're interested in this, which it fascinates me, you can really dig into some of these speeches that were really popular that had these really high narrative indexes. And it's using that strategy of and, but, therefore. And it's the narrative of storytelling. So he refers to some people being an and. We can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. But the more effective storytellers would be people who drive the story by saying ABT. And this, but, therefore, this. And that tells a better narrative. It tells a better story. Now, this is, like I said, a fascinating read to me, as it's applying a combination of mathematics and science to language. And we think of language as a softer theory that wouldn't have these hard-line ways you can create story and get understanding from people. But it's really interesting how this works. And he even breaks down, and like I said, it's so topical, and we have so much more information now than ever before, that the worst narrative index Trump had was when he read from a teleprompter. There's the times when he read, he had really low, and when he just off the cuff. Some people have a tendency to speak this way, and that is maybe they're not looking at the science and they naturally come to that conclusion, but the people who are deal makers and the people who are telling that story and really getting their point across to get things done have a very high narrative index. Like I said, this is just a fascinating story to me, a fascinating read. You can also go through here. There's a video he has on it. It's a short video you can find in a Spoing Boing article, so if you don't want to read the entire article here, you can just run through here, and he breaks down the science of how the South Park guys did it, and it's fascinating, you know. And I'll read a little excerpt real quick here. I found a narrative template that I crafted labeled as the ABT. It comes in directly from the co-creators of the Emmy and Peabody Award-winning animated series South Park. In a 2011 Comedy Central documentary about the show, they talked about the rule of replacing. With which they use for editing scripts. They replace the word and with but and therefore to improve storytelling. I mean, this is all the way from 2011. He's just applying the science of it more recently, but that just fascinates me. And if you want, I'll link the article here for the Boing Boing one, and then there's a link to his blog in there for Randy Olson, or you can just watch a short little video by him. But it's just fascinating to me of how this was done. And like I said, this one's back in September, but this guy's been preaching this for a little while, and it's fascinating to me. So if you want to do some further reading on it, I'll post the links here, and just wanted to share that. Thanks.